everybody. It's Two Bros Divided here. I'm Noah,
I'm Luke.
and today we're going to talk about some different water filters and purification systems and what that's going to look like on the Tour Divide.
Yeah, we'll let you get into what Noah did first, what worked well for him, and then all the things I did that didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing you should know about the Tour Divide is most days you actually don't need to filter your water. I think I only filtered water about 7, 8 times. If you're doing it in about that 20 day um, pace, because a lot of times you're going to be hitting towns most days, but having an effective water filter is super important because there is times when it is essential that you do have one. Especially I found that in Canada I use mine the most, Canada and Montana, and then down in New Mexico. And the two ends of the Tour Divide are, in my opinion, some of the most rugged and really just the hardest on your body. So having a good water filter system is super important, or a way to get clean water in bad times. All right, so
And
starting out with,
especially, yeah, sorry, I was
sorry,
just gonna say, especially when you're starting off, you don't want to, you don't want to get like day one, day two, and you're having issues. I don't know. Noah's the pretty much almost doctor. Like he could tell you, like Giardia probably takes a while to set in. That's why, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. In New Mexico, sometimes you risk it if you've made mistakes. It takes a while for Giardia to set in, so you'll be fine.
true, yeah, a
Bad
lot of people
advice,
say
but
it's a lot of people it's 7 days to 2 weeks. There's a little bit of a range. Every person's a little different. But yeah, Giardia are some pretty nasty parasites, and as well as there's
I
things
want
like
it.
crypto and I don't know. There's all kinds of different things you can get.
Not Bitcoin, different thing, but yeah.
Yeah, cryptosporidium. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So starting off with one of the water filters that I just like near and dear to my heart, because Luke and I have been using Platypus water filters since we were 10 years old. Or yeah. So
If
Platypus
not
is a
before.
yeah, probably before. Platypus was a great company that came out, but yeah, like I said, a while ago, and it's been
Well,
probably the best filter in the game for like quick and high volume like water purification. So usually they start out with a gravity filter, and they've kind of like changed their market into this more backpacking, like quick and efficient bag filter system where you just squeeze down. So this product here. It says it's got about 1,000 liter lifespan. It's like 3 liters per minute is how many if you're like squeezing the bag down and like rolling it as you're going, and it's about 3.3 ounces. So as far as water filter goes, we'll talk about a couple other options too, but this is by far the fastest water filter, and in my opinion, it's got some of the best life, and I'll talk about why in a second. But so second up, the one I used this year actually is the Katadyn, the Be Free the one so these are both 1 liter squeeze bags filter, and it's a very similar filter. It's about, I think it's only a few dollars, it's like $10 or $15 cheaper, about depending upon what deals you're getting. And it says it has 1,000 liter lifespan. It's 2 liters per minute, and it's 2.3 ounces, so it is lighter. It is actually, and it's cheaper, so it's like it's not a bad option. And I only had to use it a few times, like I said, but when I did use it in normal conditions with just like melt water and stuff, it worked fine. All right, so then moving into the third option I'm going to talk about is this is the Sawyer. This is another, I think it's a liter bag as well, but it's like a more of a backpacking filter, if that makes sense. It's like super lightweight. It does say it's 3.3 ounces, but the bags that I've used before, I've noticed, are lighter and they're smaller than the Katadyn and the Be Free ones. Um, this one says it gets 3,780. It says 100,000 gallons, and that's the conversion to liters. And it says it's about 1.7 liters per minute, and it's 3.3 ounces. So it is a little slower, but it's supposed to last longer. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is Katadyn tablets. And we'll have Luke tell a story in just a second about some of the drawbacks of those. And those are just like, you just have your water, you drop a tablet in, it's going to fizz for whatever. And these ones usually work in about 30 minutes to 4 hours, depending on the temperature of the water. The next one is the Life Straw. Well, that's just like a quick way if you've never used a Life Straw before, you just stick the one end into the water, and you put the other end in your mouth, and you suck it like a straw, essentially. And you can do that anywhere. And it's supposed to be the same as a filter, and they work great for what they are. And then the sixth thing I'm going to talk about, and I did put these in order of my favorites, is the Katadyn Hiker, like the pump squeeze, or the Pro Pan pump filter. Um, this is going to be, I think I didn't even put the stats on it because I just think that these work. They're fine. Um, but they're kind of a whole nother like problem in their stuff because pumping like can be faster, but a lot of times it just ends up being a huge pain and takes up a lot of space. So like they work great, don't get me wrong, but they are hard to use. So yeah. So starting off with like why I rank these this way. The reason I like um the platypus water filter is because when do you need a filter? It's like you're not using it when you're above 10,000 feet and there's this clear, you can see the source water and it's perfectly clear. Like that's not when you're using a filter most time in the divide. Usually you're using a filter in situations like this. And you can see this photo here was what happened. This was like stuck in my water filter until the end of the race because about 2 or 3 days out, I had to filter straight out of a puddle on the road looking a lot like this one. So, Luke, you can tell, I think that you had to do a similar thing where you actually didn't have a filter. And what did you do again when you ran out of water?
Yeah, so when I did the route, I was 16, so I was very smart at the time
You knew
and
everything.
decided that hey, we've ridden the route the year before. It's like there's tons of towns, and plus I'm gonna be hiking so fast. That I'm just gonna hit all the towns. But I was like, I'll probably have to fill up once or twice. So I got, and I don't, it was 10 years ago. I don't remember the brand or what kind of tablets they were exactly, but they were some sort of tablets, designed for purification. Had a stat sheet very similar to what Noah was talking about there, going over the, you put it in, it'll dissolve entirely in water, and you wait 30 minutes, and the pill, like, there's no residue, the pill's completely gone. So what I did is I had a Ziploc bag full of them, and the one thing I will say is that they do dissolve completely when immersed to water, because it was raining the entire first day and my Ziploc bag was not as waterproof as I thought. Completely gone, toasted, had a quart sized bag of really, really clean water, I suppose, which I obviously didn't use. The rest of the route, I just didn't have any kind of filter iodine system. I'm very lucky that I didn't get some sort of disease from that. But it worked okay. I was hitting up towns and trying to fill up a lot of extra water on the dry spots. Only ran out of water 3 or 4 times and, was dehydrated. So, all in all, pretty good. The last day, I was having mechanical issues. Well, the second to last day, 24 hours before I finished, I was
Was it mud?
having. Yeah, so I ran into some mud, some mechanical issues. The trail was terrible. It was coming up, actually where you ran into the mud too. So by Ghost Lake, which is not a lake, I made the same
Oh,
mistake. Um,
oh yeah.
the reason it's
Sorry.
called
Yes.
Ghost Lake is because there's no lake. It's a ghost. It's gone. There's no water there. Anywho, um, I was running up there and I was so thirsty. I've been out of water for probably about an hour. Which, if anytime in southern New Mexico where you've been out of water for an hour, you know what I'm talking about. It was miserable, and there was this beautiful puddle of mud and water combination that I really, really wish I would have had some sort of a filter. Um, Outside of me just sorting through the particles that were moving with my hand. Um, and I scooped it up and I drank it, and it was great. And I somehow survived that, but would not recommend if you have any other option. This was this wasn't like A grade puddle water. Like, this was junk bond status. Like, you wouldn't
Filled
even want to get
water.
your feet in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
let alone drink it. But I did, and you want to avoid that if all possible.
And it's funny. The reason I laugh so hard about the Ghost Lake is because when I actually ended up filtering water, that was the exact scenario I was in. But I had a filter and Luke didn't, and
Yep.
my filter only filtered about 3 liters of water, of like puddle water. So and then it's like done now. Like I had to throw it away, or I guess I kept it for that picture. But yeah. So and the reason I think that I like the platypus a little bit more is because one of the things that's nice about the platypus is because the reason it's able to filter a higher rate per minute is it has more surface area to filter. So theoretically speaking, it's got a very similar system. You will be getting a higher volume of muddy and junky water to be able to get through that filter than you would at Be Free, because a Be Free is about probably about the size of like a nickel, like circumference wise, and then the the platypus is a bit bigger, so it has more area to get gunked up essentially. And I think because of that, I think that you could actually get out of a really bad situation versus the Be Free. I think it's a little harder. But that being said, I do think that it's much better than than the Sawyer, and definitely better than the Life Straw or the hand pump. The hand pump actually, I think you can clean a little bit, so that actually might work in this scenario. But I would not bring that for that. So back
Bottom
to
line,
like, yeah,
when you're looking at water filters, these nice, like tiny little 1 ounce ones that, are advertised great, a lot of times they're not going to be what you want. They're either not going to work for the bad stuff or they're going to break. Where Noah's talking about the ones that have a big filter on them, that's kind of what you want, to obviously you don't need anything too extreme, but general rule, bigger is better when you're looking at the water filters, like the size that they can actually pump through. They're not going to get gunked up. They're not going to get what they're going to get gunked up, but they can take a lot more abuse than the tiny ones, the little straws. Especially because when you're looking at the water purification, these tablets and whatnot are great, and I'm sure they kill all the germs. But then you have to like you wrap your mind around like I'm drinking 4 day old puddle water and I've got to convince myself that it's actually no germs or anything in it, but you're still drinking dirt. Get a
dirt.
filter so you don't drink dirt. Don't drink dirt.
Drinking dirt is it's the worst. I mean, I don't care
Not as
how
fun as it
thirsty you are.
sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really not. And so that was another thing I actually, so here's another pro and con. So the Katadyn tablets, the one thing I did like about them is they are super lightweight and they're not that expensive. You can buy, I think it's a 20 pack for $15. So like really you would only need to filter your water probably about 10 times. But
Probably.
so like they're a great backup. So if you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna buy the cheap filter, but I'm gonna bring the Katadyn filters with tablets, just knowing that it could break, as opposed to buying the more expensive filter with no backup. That's where I think that you can kind of use some of these products. The Life Straw, the biggest thing I don't like about it is you have no way to like store it. It's just going straight from puddle to mouth. Like you can't like store the puddle water that you're gonna end up going to need later. And I actually had to do that a few times. I stored 2.5 liters of puddle water because that was the only water. Like the puddles ran out eventually, and then there's just no water sources left. So I don't really like that idea. It's a good backup. But I would, that's kind of like the main reason that you're going to want something that you're going to be able to trust. And then if you want to bring something that's like cheaper, bring a backup like Katadyn tablets, because even if you do survive the race with no Giardia, our brother Will had Giardia, and he said it's probably the worst thing that he's ever had. It's worse than the race itself when he
Which
won the
is
Colorado
saying a
Trail.
lot.
Yeah, because he didn't sleep at all for 4 days. So that's the kind of thing that that's important when it comes to water filters. Just and then as you're choosing, just kind of use those parameters of like, all right, is this reliable? Is this going to be able to store water if I need to like filter later? Is this going to be able to get through some of those bad times? And is it like not too heavy? And also, is it convenient? And that's why I love these squeeze bottles, is they are very convenient. They are very fast. Because a lot of times when you're racing the first couple of days, you're like, oh, I gotta stop and fill water up. And then you get passed by 7 people, you're like, that was the stupidest thing I've ever done. Like I just gave up time. And that's a big part of racing as well. And it doesn't really matter in the end, but that mental component can wear down on people and making them not want to filter.
Yeah, I mean, you have the other thing. If you're not familiar with the geography of the route, you have pretty much like two different like extremes. You have the beautiful mountains of Colorado and Montana, and then a little bit up in America Light in Canada. That you have some of these great mountains, but clear streams, right off the snow, amazing. On the other hand, there's still a lot of water in the other places, but you're sharing that with cows. So you really
Yeah.
want a good water filter that can filter, some pretty clear water if you're not sure, and that can also filter water that you're sharing with the cows that you really, really want to be sure,
Yeah.
to put
Well,
it lightly.
because there's a lot of crypto, spiridium, and giardia in cows. And that's another thing. Just one last thing about the water filter. Having water is actually going to speed you up a lot of times. Like you can carry extra water, but if you run out, it will slow you down significantly. Because I noticed a lot of times when I would get run out of water, it would be harder for me to eat because your mouth is constantly dry because you're breathing hard for pretty much the whole day.
And
So like
also,
trying to get food down and then you bonk and then you have to like stop. It's just like this whole cascade of problems that could be solved by having like good water. So yeah, I know that some of the leaders and stuff, I've heard stories of some of the top people that just don't filter ever, and I think that that works for them, but I don't recommend it. Um,
no.
I think it's a big risk, and it's not really worth. I mean, 3.3 ounces. That's like nothing. That's like half of a tube, or like that's like yeah, that's the granola bar. But yeah, anyways, yeah. So I think that's about all we have about water. If you have any questions, please shoot us some emails and we will try to respond to you about some more practical stuff. But yeah, this was our first technical video. So if you like it or do you like us to change anything about it, or we kind of get into some more products, please let us know as well. And we'll be trying to make some changes for you guys.
And
Do you have anything
for
else?
Yeah, for the folks here that are in the U.S. like us, sorry for using Imperial, but on biking it is liters. You got to get on board with that. Really when it comes to biking, a lot of things we'll be talking about. Don't worry, we're not going to start using kilograms or stuff like that. Maybe grams. We'll use pounds in American, metric units, but yeah, for the water and for a lot of the technical stuff, we'll try to incorporate a little bit of both metric and imperial. I'll have a calculator or something so I can understand the rest of the world. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, sweet. All right. Well, thanks guys for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.